break, we were talking about using a day, or having their organization have it something that related something to the Holocaust on the day of a Holocaust Remembrance Day. Now, you say it was completely unintentional. However, I was told you guys were coming back. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but also, how is that related to you guys coming on September 11th, another national tragedy that hits home to a lot more people than that, and kind of bastardizing that day as well as something for your own political gain?
Well, coming on September 11th, this is September 11th, was completely, irregardless of what the day was, it just happened to work on the calendar. So there wasn't a display and images that we had of the 9/11 towers that were destroyed, and we took that out of the display. So, I mean, I'm not saying that makes everybody happy, but I'm just saying we stopped using that particular image.
So why would you stop using the towers and still be using something that I feel, and that I'm sure a lot of the other Jewish people I've talked about this, feel do not belong on a board next to aborted fetuses, but belong on somewhere like a Holocaust Memorial Museum or in a history book, and not next to something that's being used for political gain? And it just seems kind of, it just seems very, I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use, narrow-minded and disrespectful. And I did read the response that your rabbi had written on the page, and the rabbi, you know, you use that to justify you being able to compare it to the Holocaust, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the opinions of the entire Jewish community. I mean, this is a very sensitive subject among Jewish people, and to be using something like that for political gain, a lot of people would say is wrong. And I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I've talked to Jewish people who feel that comparing the Holocaust to anything is wrong, because it is a unique historical event, and the evil of all these people being murdered it stands alone in history. And so I'm aware of that perspective, and yet I would say that our intention is not to disrespect people, and I can't speak to why we would use why we wouldn't use the 9/11 panels and we would use the Holocaust ones. I can't really tell you what the decision was. All I know is that we don't use that anymore.
Also, I wanted to talk about, do you feel it's distracting at all to other students who may have had an abortion to be able to come to school and have an education and not be confronted by a situation that they feel very strongly about, even though that they feel they might have made a mistake in the past, that they're having to have this in their face when they're trying to come to school to get an education where they pay $2,600 a year? I mean, that's a little disrespectful too, I think.
Well, yeah, I'll address that in a second. I wanted to talk about using images for political gain. We're not really connected with any political party. There's no politics involved in this at all. It's purely just an educational, philosophical approach. There's no connection to politics. But as far as women who have been, I guess what I would call victims of abortion, they have abortion in their background, we are aware that a lot of people, I look at young women who go into the abortion places, many of them, most of them are a second victim. That they come in because they're being compelled by their feelings or their perceived condition and their situation, or maybe by boyfriends or fathers or husbands. And many of them, when they go in, for whatever reason, they don't know what they're doing. They really don't know that there's a human life involved, and they don't know what these babies look like. And so when they come on campus and they walk straight into and see this image, that can be deeply disturbing. So we're aware of that. And you know, I can't say that we have a perfect remedy for that. But I don't say that it's completely our responsibility, because it's people who have allowed our culture to do this. That's where the blame should lie. But and then look on the other side of it. If abortion, if it is such a terrible thing to see a picture of an aborted baby, and it's so traumatic to a woman has experienced that, then what about the women who haven't, who by seeing the image will be spared that lifelong trauma, because they'll decide they'll never abort. So that's the flip side of that.
But wouldn't it be more effective to talk about Planned Parenthood and stopping the calls before it happened? Wouldn't that be a lot more effective than to offend a large number of people, and to have them not even hear your cause because they're so offended by what you have to say.
We have to keep in mind, why are people offended? Why are people being offended by seeing a picture? The picture is of something that's real. And if they take offense at seeing a picture, shouldn't they take far more offense at the reality?
Well, I think the people that I've talked to that are offended about it are offended because you're comparing it to things like the Holocaust, and you're comparing it to things like lynching of black people and Rwanda incident. And that's why they're offended, and I think that kind of shock speech is a little dangerous because you're not getting your point across.
When you see a picture of an aborted baby, you see a head, you see a mouth, you see eyes, you see fingers, you see toes, you see legs, you see arms. When you see a picture, a victim of another atrocity, you see all those things. They're human beings.
But it's still not similarly related as far as what is actually happening, as far as like hate crime versus not a crime.
There's a lot of similarities. One of those is a depersonalization and dehumanization. And that's the point. I mean, that's what we're about to discuss.
And Halitic law says that a person is not really a person until it takes its first breath.
Well, our position is not based on religion. It's purely biological, scientific, and philosophical. So we're not really trying to represent any kind of religious perspective on this.
Now you say scientific.
To be Christian or Jewish.
I mean, when you say scientific, what do you mean by scientific? I mean, what?
Well,
I mean, tell me a little bit more about the scientific aspect.
Sure.
Where?
Right. Well, it's virtually unanimous in the scientific world that an individual human life begins at fertilization. That's absolute. There's no debate on that. What there might be debate on, when does a human being become a person? But that's a philosophical discussion. It's not biological.
I think it can be philosophical and it can be biological, and it's a combination of the both. To try. At some point it's a cluster of cells, as is everything.
Right. It's an individual human being, though. Which also is a cluster of cells.
How can you decide? Well, exactly. That's the point. Is we're both clusters of cells. So what's the difference between an unborn something and a born something? That's the question that we're trying to get. Development, of course.
Right. And there's difference between a born child and an adult child is development.
However, you have feelings involved. You have emotions. You have pain. You have hurt.
Yeah.
Now, to compare something like the Holocaust, because I'm not. I don't care pro-choice or pro-life either.
Right.
Oh, we have a phone call. I'm sorry.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Caller, welcome to the evening news. No problem.
And one point I really thought needed to be made as far as the gentleman is concerned that's with the group that's posting all the photographs. I think it is important for people to know actually what they're doing before they do it. The first thought that came to my mind was I wish that before all of these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids were enrolled in the military to go to Iraq and fight, that they had been shown graphic images of just exactly what they're getting themselves into. I promise you that a lot of them wouldn't have gone if they had known, if they had been able to visually see what exactly that they're going to do and what that life is going to be about. A lot of them wouldn't have gone if they had been told the truth. And I think that's very important for people to know what they're getting themselves into.
Well, thank you for your perspective on the issue. We do appreciate all views, and we appreciate you listening to our show here.
Thank you, caller. I think we are out of... Oh.
I'm sorry, continue.
I had an abortion, and after that, I also had children. So, I know both sides of that.
Well, thank you for coming forth and sharing that with us here on the Evening News. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but we encourage you to listen and call in the future. Alrighty, thank you. All right, that was a caller we had on based of experience, and she believes that what they're doing is the proper thing. Showing these images might, you know, deter future happenings, and from her experience, I can see that. Anything else? I guess we've
No, I think we're out of time. Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for talking to us.
If you want to introduce yourself again, let everybody know who we are.
Yes, I'm Meredith Hunt, and I'm with the Center for Bioethical Reform, and we're here on campus with the Genocide Awareness Project, and we'll be here until 4 o'clock, and then we'll be packing up. So if you're on campus and want to come by and talk some more, we'll be out there.
Excellent. Thank you for coming on. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. Zach for being here producing today, since it is kind of his show now. And the Hebrew Hammer for joining us and all his friends.
Yo, yo. Talk to you guys later.
And I want to thank everybody from Solidarity.